you, sometimes you have to build your own door. And tonight's discussion is going to be exactly about that. How do you build your own door when you're in the job seeking process? And I just want to give a show of hands, and maybe people that are online can say, whether or not, how many of you are currently in transition looking for your next dream job? Just type in something on the chat or raise your hand if you're there. Like me too. I'm actually looking for a job right now. Raise your hand in the audience if you're in the audience. Tonight's discussion is going to be about how to actually speed up and accelerate your job search when you're in the process of finding a new position. And this particular talk is going to be about specifically how to actually differentiate yourself in a hyper competitive market. And the first thing we'll do is we'll actually be going over the current situation, the latest statistics from Department of Labor on the job market here in US. And in the outline, you'll see that we're going to go over like just current situation, what the Department of Labor is saying about current unemployment rates and job openings and the type of job openings that are occurring right now. But also we'll talk about why it is such a hyper competitive market, even as for those of you who have been looking since last year, or maybe looking for, at the beginning of the year because of announced dislocations or tech layoffs. And also we'll get into discussions about the process and the roadmap that you can follow, which if you're actually following this within 90 days or so, you should be able to find your next position. And we'll go over that framework. And then we'll go more into details on that as we talk about how to land your next job and how to accelerate your job search process. And then we'll talk about key takeaways, and then we'll do the drawing. So the first thing is tracking tech layoffs. In 2022, there were a lot of tech layoffs. Ooh, make sure that your battery doesn't run out. Anyway, the tech layoffs that we're talking about here are the ones that were announced, big companies, and the majority of the layoffs in tech were across these particular companies that you see here. Everybody from Tesla to Twitter to Meta, all the big ones were the ones that actually had a lot of layoffs announced in 2022. And this particular slide shows a depiction of the companies, the major companies that had a lot of those layoffs.
Hey, Hector.
Yes.
Can you actually pause? Because the projector is actually turned off. So.
Oh, okay. Yes. I will stop.
Just few minutes. So we're trying to switch on the. Projector. Projector is powered off. So.
Okay.
Yeah, just few minutes.
No problem.
Also, do we need to
just cue me?
Yeah. Do we need to
cue me, and then I will start on this slide again.
Okay. So
for those of you online, we're having issues on the conference room where the projector turned off, and it's right now restarting.
Okay.
That's going to be skewed.
Yeah, this is. Okay.
Yes.
We are good.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I can hear you too. So this is great. All right. So let's restart. We had technology issues in the room. This is the projector, not the platform we're using. So for those of you who are online, you probably saw me stop. And we were talking about this particular current state of the job market. In 2022, there were a lot of tech layoffs, and the majority of these layoffs happened in the second half of 2022. And everyone from Meta to Amazon to Twitter, Tesla, and a few others, that's where many jobs, many tech jobs and layoffs occurred last year. And if you go to the next slide, it actually shows what's happened since. And what you see here is that the majority of the layoffs started in the second half of 2022 and then continued in the first quarter of 2023. And this particular data shows all the way up until the end of last month, March of 2023. And what you see here is that it appears that the layoffs are actually slowing down. And I think I'm hearing some. So I think there's somebody that should be muting themselves.
Hi, sorry to interrupt. Hector, if you would just go ahead and mute all of the remote attendees. It's Chuck, governance. Thank you.
Danielle, can you hear me? Check, check. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. So as I was mentioning, looking at those tech layoffs, now we're looking at what's been happening through the end of first calendar quarter of 2023. And what this shows is that the tech layoffs appear to be slowing down now. Like what you see at the beginning, at the second half of the year, there were a lot of companies laying off. And this chart shows two different data points. So number one is the number of people being laid off. And then in blue is the number of companies that have announced layoffs. And what you see here is that while it appeared to have a couple of different waves of layoffs, so to speak, second half of 2022, and then it kind of peaked out through the end of the year, and then it appears that now at the end of March, those tech layoffs and the number of people being laid off appears to be slowing down. So that is good news. Now, what's going to happen to all these dislocated people, and what's happening if you're one of them is the question, right? So if you go to the next slide, it actually shows some better understanding. This is based on some published information from PMI, because they have published information about project jobs and the forecast for 2023. And this is what a summary of that report, because if you actually find that report, it's actually quite lengthy, but this is just a high-level overview of the results that it's showing. So number one, there's a lot of companies that are hiring project management specialists in 2023, an increase of 43% compared to last year. Also, around 26% of PMs that are currently gainfully employed are actually planning to leave their jobs within the next 12 months. And that's supposed to be occurring this year. So not only are there currently people that have been dislocated because of these tech layoffs, or maybe just a downsized layoff within your company, but also 26% of current gainfully employed project managers that are looking to leave their jobs because they're looking for a better work-life balance. Now, is there a work-life balance in today's world? Well, that's something we can debate probably for a few hours, but most people right now, some of the PMs, especially some people who have been in management, what they've seen post-COVID is people were being laid off. Many of them were working remotely and maybe not so engaged. A lot of the managers had to take up the slack of either people, unengaged people, once the downsizing started, they had to even take even more work as well because there were not enough workers. And right now, most managers, according to statistics, and this is part of what PMI report showed, published in 2022, that most PMs are overworked, and many of them are planning to leave to just, they don't want to be working 12-hour days anymore. They want to just come into a company where they can actually get paid well, but also have a better work-life balance. And there's the expectation is that there's a lot of project managed specialists that will be actually making the shift, but also looking to re-enter the job market in 2023. So you have a couple of different segments of project managed specialists that are looking for that. Now, how do you go about meeting employer expectations? Because part of differentiating yourself is to figure out how to do this. And part of this is basically realizing that your experience, your expertise, and how do they match against some of the job openings that are out there. Don't look for perfection, because most of the job openings and the job descriptions that I see out there, they're looking for what I call purple squirrels, meaning you're not going to be finding anyone that has all of these things. Because if you're looking for someone who has deep understanding of your customers or your users, somebody who has a deep understanding of your industry, a deep understanding of your business operations and your business model, and a deep knowledge about your data, that's not going to be one person usually. And if you have a job opening of that sort, you don't have to be perfect, but at least match the ability to learn some of these things that are expected of you. That's what you need to show when you're actually applying for a new job. And often it's a matter of figuring out how to present yourself the right way in order to actually get to the interview. And we're going to be discussing as part of the process, how do you do that? So moving on to the next one is, how do you assess how good of a fit you are to a specific job opening? And that's also another thing that I find most experienced people really don't understand how to clearly enunciate and communicate that in a 1 or 2 page document, maybe a cover letter as well. What is it that out of the much experience they have, which 1 or 2 or 3 things are they going to focus on that particular company is looking for, and basically present that up front in the way you present yourself in your resume, your cover letter, and any other marketing collateral such as your LinkedIn profile, to start attracting some of these employers that are looking for someone that has your expertise and your experience. So assessing the candidate to market fit, we'll talk about also in more detail as I go into the framework. And then moving on to the next the next thing is about, we talked about having a 90-day roadmap, and here it is. It's 5 phases, and it's a framework that you can use for those of you who are in the job seeking process. Where do you start, and how do you move on? That as you start in your job seeking process, you can start putting some metrics to figure out how well you're doing and actually getting from the first phase all the way to the last one, and ensuring that you're measuring and making adjustments based on activity that you're seeing and the responses that you're getting from prospective employers. So we're going to talk about each one of these, but it starts with preparing. It also goes into assessing your own product candidate to market fit, and then begin the application process. Once you have a list of job openings and suitable companies that have suitable job openings, start applying to them as fast and furiously as you can, and then getting to interviews and preparing for the interviews, as well as then measuring the results of your entire process. And while it appears that this is actually a waterfall approach, it is not. Often these are swim lanes that you have to do to actually, once you get started, you have to then do more and more and more. And it's an iterative process, the way you go from preparation to assessment to applying to interviewing to measuring the results until you get at least 1 or more job offers. We're going to talk about each one of these in the next few slides. So starting off with the preparation phase. And the preparation phase should be about laying this out, planning out this 5-phase approach. It's about looking at this funnel, creating a funnel, and planning out the funnel. And the funnel is no more than just a simple marketing and sales funnel for yourself in the way that you want to present yourself. And you have to assess how many leads about suitable job openings and companies that are currently employing. Those are the leads. The number of opportunities that exist within the companies that you have identified, the number of cover letters and resumes that you have submitted or are planning to submit, and then the number of interviews that you have conducted or you're in the process of scheduling because somebody has contacted you about scheduling an interview. And also then measuring the number of job offers, also the ones that are in the queue that you have already interviewed but you haven't heard back from. And what this is like a simple 5-step or 5-stage marketing and sales funnel. There's a lot of delays that you as a job seeker don't control. And we're going to talk about those as we move on to the phases. And we'll start with phase 1 next. And we talk about preparation. In the preparation phase, it's critical to do all of these things. And my guess is if you actually have already been in seeking jobs for a while, you probably have done a few of these. The most critical one that I find that most people don't do in this is to start searching for support groups, and that should be your number one task. So if I had to reprioritize this list and where you start, I would start with joining job search support groups, and I'll tell you why. My guess is all of you have done any of these steps before, except for maybe joining a job search support group. So let me explain what that is. It's simply a support group, so job seekers helping other job seekers along the way. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are identifying yourselves and you are serving as each other's advocates for specific job openings. And you would say, well, wait a minute, what happens if I join a job support group and it's filled with other project managed specialists? When you start really networking and connecting with those people, you quickly realize that you have unique experience and expertise that others that are still seeking for project management specialist jobs don't, and vice versa. So in reality, you're looking to say, the kind of jobs that you're looking for are completely different than somebody else who's also a project management specialist. Even if they have the same number of years of expertise, their background, their industrial experience, all those things that are important to many employers are very different. And some of you may be a better match than to some jobs than others, and vice versa. So part of this is just having simply a group of people that you can connect with and then start really encouraging each other and supporting each other through the job seeking process. And somebody unmuted themselves and there's a background noise. So if you can mute yourself, please. So also, what we're talking about here is the ability to start seeking and looking for job search support groups. One of the things that we're doing as part of this particular set of discussions, because we're actually doing these discussions in many different venues, and going after job seekers that have either project management, product management, program management expertise, and then getting all those professionals to start focusing on forming and launching multiple job search support groups. And that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing more. If you're interested in this, be sure to contact me and there will be more information at the end of today's discussion. So moving on to the next phase, the assessment. The number one thing that I would start doing here is what's actually evaluating and assessing your candidate to market fit. And simply what that is putting together, based on your experience and expertise and all the things that you have to offer to an employer, figuring out the things that you like and the things that you don't like about the type of job that you're looking for. So for example, post-COVID-19, everybody went and worked remotely. And many of the employers are currently trying to encourage most employees to return to the office. And that's something that is happening across industries and across companies. And often, for me, as an employee, I really think that commuting is a waste of time. It's a waste of my time, a waste of my employer's time. So I'm looking to minimize any inefficiency. And depending on the location of the company and where the job is, I would probably negotiate maybe reporting to the office maybe a few days a week, but not every single day of the week. And that's something that you need to state upfront, because that is the expectation. If you're looking at any job openings in 2022, there were a lot of remote only type of jobs. Now the job openings that you're seeing today, the employer is asking for to be in person at specific locations. And that's something that you need to be very clear on, is what is that commute like? Because if you're like me, I just don't believe in wasting my time in commuting, because I really believe it's not a waste of my own time. It's a waste of my employer's time, because no work is getting done while I'm commuting. And that's something that I've learned, and I can quickly enunciate why it's such a waste of time for me as well as the employer when I'm being sought for a specific position. And believe me, some companies, they probably have already have it within their workforce today, people that live nearby, and now their real challenge is to find people who are willing to commute to get to report to work. And so that's what you're seeing right now, and you need to have clarity on that. So part of this is about really doing the assessment on the things that you want and the things that you don't want at all. When all the job openings are for project management specialist, or senior project manager, or whatever it is, a project role that you're looking for. So this is the number one thing that I would do here, that I see a lot of candidates don't do, and often they end up either not making it to the interview, or they go through the interview process, they spend a lot of time and waiting, and because they weren't upfront on the way they presented themselves with the company, at some point they're going to be dropped off, because they're asking you to do things that you're not willing to do. And that's something that you need to be very clear and upfront about. I find that makes a difference. Moving on to the next phase, and the phase about application. So once you have done all of this, now you have your job search groups, support group. Now you're looking to say, now I have my list of companies, my job openings that I'm going to be applying for. Now you need to start fast and furiously sending out cover letters and resumes to those companies that have job openings. And often you find that it may be time consuming, because often you have to maybe customize a little bit your expertise, your experience, the way you present yourself on your resume, and also do a lot of customization on your cover letter as well. And it is time taking, but you should be doing this. And the more of this that you do with practice, it gets much faster to start doing these kinds of things. So in the application process, what you want to do is you want to focus on not just finding job openings. You want to go and do a little bit deeper market research and start finding technical recruiters that your preferred list of companies, employers, future employers are using to find talented people that match the job description, but also finding more about who is the hiring manager. And what I find is most of us just don't do that research, because we just see the job opening on our favorite job search board. We submit, and then we don't hear from anybody. And often we only see the recruiter, or maybe sometimes we don't even see a point of contact, and we're just waiting, and we get a lot of automated replies, and we don't have anyone to follow up with. And follow up is key in the last three phases of this process. So if you don't have someone that you to follow up with, you're probably not going to be hearing anything back. So I would spend my time here in doing a little bit more research and finding not just who is the technical recruiter or the HR specialist that is responsible for filling that position within the company. I would also be looking for the hiring manager within the company. And I don't know what you guys are doing right now, if anyone is doing this right now, but LinkedIn is your number one tool for actually finding not just the hiring HR specialist responsible for filling positions within certain companies, but also the hiring managers that have LinkedIn profiles that are up to date. And there are ways to do that. And that's something that you can learn through your job search support group, because I find that often some people will be better at others at knowing how to use LinkedIn to do specifically just this. And that's the way you can follow up once you find either the HR person that's responsible for filling the position and or the hiring manager that is actually that the person that will be actually making the decision, your future supervisor in other words. So that's part of the key piece on this apply phase. So moving on to the next phase, and the next phase is now, now you've been submitting cover letters, resumes, and over time you're going to get calls. And the first time will be from an HR person saying, hey, just want to get to know you. And it's just going to be a very nice talk about, what is it like to work in that company and all of those things, and kind of see if you may be a great candidate to set up an interview with the hiring manager and or his or her team. And so what you need to do here in preparation for this is make sure that you go even a deeper dive. Once you know that you have gotten that first call and you're in the process of scheduling an interview, you need to identify the OKRs and KPIs that you're going to, when you're talking to the interviewer. Not only are you going to talk about your expertise, but now you're going to say, assume that you have the job. And that's say, given this in this situation, once you assess why they're looking for someone like you for this particular position, start discussing, especially if you're actually interviewing with the hiring manager. It may or may not happen depending on the size of the company, but often, if it's even in a mid-sized company, the hiring manager will be your first or second interview. And what you need to do is start negotiating the OKRs, the objectives and key results that person is looking for, and say what you would intend to do in the first 90 days if you were to receive an offer at the end of the interview. So assume that you have the interview and you start identifying OKRs that are relevant to the hiring manager and the key performance indicators as to how that person and how the company is going to measure your performance as you come in. And believe me, very few people actually do this during an interview. And it's powerful. That's all I want to say. And you can learn how to do this if you actually have a support group. You can actually start sharing some of this expertise among those of you who have already been doing this versus others that have not. And I think it's key to making sure that in your interview, you leave a lasting impression, because people will say, hey, this person knows what they're talking about. Not only do they know about, did they assess my problem as to why, as a hiring manager, why I'm looking for someone, but now he's walking me through the process of what that person would do if I was to give him an offer, what they would do in the first 90 days upon coming in. And that's very powerful. Going to the next phase, and that is measuring. I mentioned earlier that you don't control a lot of delays. So there's a lot of delays for number one, how soon you can submit once you find a job opening. And you can maybe pretty much control that if you already have a list of companies that you have already done some research, and now you're looking for the next job opening that is similar to the one that you found that it may have already been closed, or maybe it's already in progress, and now you need to keep on looking for additional job openings from the same companies or the same set of companies. But once you begin and submit the resume, what's your experience like? So I just want a rhetorical question. How long are you waiting for on the average to hear back from a company that you have submitted your resume before you hear back as to what's happening and, get status? Is it 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month? you never hear back often. If I was to guess, everybody's saying I don't hear back at all. Like majority of jobs, of job openings that you're submitting a resume, you don't hear back at all. Well, the way to fix that is if you are working in the meantime while you're waiting to hear back on finding out who is the HR specialist responsible for filling that position within the company, and then who is the hiring manager within the company, so that you can have a person to follow up with. And that's one of the things that you need to do. Why you need to actually start doing this research is because often there's delays and you may not even hear back for a few weeks at all. And you may not hear back at all from a company, and you don't even know why they're not even calling you, right? You just know that you've been working hard at submitting resumes, and no one is maybe getting back to you with, with an interest to interview or continue your on to through the interview process. The other thing is that you want to be able to keep track of your offer versus the losses. You know, how many submissions have you gotten where you have gotten no response, and you know how many of those have resulted in at least one call from someone from the company to just kind of assess, you know, to whether or not you would be a candidate that would be worthwhile interviewing or not. Or if you have already carried out interviews, you know, how many offers have you actually gotten? What you're going to find out is that, you know, you're going to see a lot of no's, and just be prepared to see a lot of silence. And it's better to track all those things and start figuring out how to iterate on the type of openings that you're applying for and the type of companies for which you're applying for. And figure out how are you going to actually accelerate your job search by keeping track of your offer to loss analysis, and keep track of these metrics as you continue to apply, waiting for someone to call you, and then waiting for someone to schedule an interview sometime in the future, and then waiting for an offer at some point in the future. If you want to accelerate all these things, it really helps if you want to start tracking and keeping track of time. Time is of the essence for most of you who need to find your next job, because right now you were recently told that you that you're now laid off, and you're now looking, and you have bills to pay. So that's something that will help you accelerate all of this. So measuring is very important, and then making sure that based on the results, you make quick adjustments on the way you present yourself, what you put in your resume, what you put in your cover letters as you're applying to different job openings in along the way. So that in itself is a nutshell. So now we can get into key takeaways about this 5-step process, and that you can actually carry it out in 90 days. And we can get into maybe some questions after this. So key takeaways. Number one, it's a good job market right now. It's a very strong. It's unemployment rate is lowest right now, still lowest, 3.9% as of the end of March of 2023. And this type of job market hasn't been a job seeker market in decades. This is for the first time. It's a job seeker market. It will continue to be, especially for those of you that have experience doing project management of some sort. You just have to find the right industries, the right employers, and figure out how to do how to get great at telling your story and clearly enunciating to those employers your unique value proposition and why they should hire you as opposed to someone else. And then economists are saying that from everyone that has been laid off from these tech layoffs that I spoke about occurring since 2022 and basically are still happening in the first quarter of 2023, they're slowing down. And most economists are saying that most people that have been laid off will have no problem, as long as they have the right experience and expertise, finding a new job within 3 months or less. 3 months, 90 days, it's pretty much the same. And yes, it can be done. And the other thing is that the U.S. unemployment rate, this is actually dated because it was back in the at the end of February, it was January, I'm sorry, it was 3.4. Now it has gone up a little bit by 3.5. It is still fairly low. And most experts are saying that this is a very strong job market today, especially for those people that have experience in project management, program management, product management, because there's going to be a lot of new openings in all of these fields in the next year or so. So that's a key takeaway. So that's kind of like an optimistic picture. I would love to entertain any questions that you have regarding anything that I've talked and the how to actually go about accelerating your own job search today. So we can move on to the next one. I just want to remind you that we are going to be having a drawing. So if you're in person, be sure to sign up to Fontero to be eligible, because we're going to be announcing the winner at the end of today's discussion. And right now we're going to get started with the Q&A. And I don't know if there's any questions in the room or any questions in the chat. Danielle, are you able to? I cannot hear you, so I don't know what if you can hear me. Let me see if I can make sure that I have.
Okay. Can you hear?
Got it. Yes.
Good afternoon. This is OJ Sam speaking.
Hi.
I have a question. You mentioned about going on the LinkedIn to find out who the hiring manager is.
Yes.
I think it works probably good in the private sector. How does it work in the federal sector?
So the answer is it doesn't matter whether you're in the public sector or the private sector. It works both ways. And here's how. Just recently, LinkedIn started implementing two different ways that you can brand yourself, your profile on your headshot photo. And one is called the hashtag hiring. So if you're a hiring manager and you're trying to attract and welcome anyone because you have a job opening or more, you can, as a hiring manager, they're using the hashtag hiring label, and it's purple looking, and you can see in specific companies, you can search employees by company name. If that's a company that you're interested in and you're another type of company, whether it's a GovCon or some sort of contractor that does a lot of public work, you can find those. If they're federal agencies and you're a hiring manager, you still can use a hashtag hiring. And I've seen a lot of people using it in the first 3 months of 2023. And that's the way you can attract just by anyone, people who are connected with you. When you're the hiring manager and you know someone who's looking, who might qualify, you can reshare or comment, and then it's expanded on LinkedIn. Now, what this requires is that if you're a LinkedIn user, you have to be tracking your timeline, because if you're not taking a look, you might miss that. So the first thing is become a savvy LinkedIn user. And a LinkedIn user means that you can just be logged in on your favorite mobile device, whether you're on your phone or on your laptop while you're working. You can be logged into to LinkedIn, and you can start looking for the people that have the hashtag hiring to find hiring managers across companies. You may or may not find within your company or the companies that you're looking for, but you'd be looking for hiring managers when they have the hashtag hiring label. That's one way of looking. Also, if you're if you're a job seeker, the second hashtag is open to work hashtag. So hashtag open to work. It's a different color, and you can, if you're a job seeker, you're using that to announce to your network of connections on LinkedIn that you're now currently open to work. And you can turn that in different ways. If you're employed and you don't want your current employer to know that you are openly looking for a new job, you don't have to use that hashtag. There's another way on your settings in your LinkedIn profile to designate to recruiters and other people that have a paid plan, like a recruiter plan on LinkedIn, to find you because you're secretly or in stealth mode looking for suitable job openings, even as you're currently employed. So those hashtags have been implemented in the last few months, and it's new. And I'm seeing a lot of current job seekers looking for that. But also, if you are a savvy job seeker, you want to start looking for the hashtag hiring people on LinkedIn and start looking for what type of job openings they have currently, because that's something that you can do. And you do not need to be on a paid plan to do that. You can do this while you have a free plan. You do not have to have a paid plan on LinkedIn to find these hashtags. You just have to find them. Just if you go into LinkedIn on the search window, you can do a hashtag search. So I would just do hashtag hiring, hit enter, and you'll see, and you look for people, and you'll see all the people that have the hashtag hiring tag on their profiles. And now you can start seeing if any of them are in the companies that you would be looking to get hired at and the type of job openings they have.
Like the reason why I say what I said, because in the federal government, you have to go to USA Jobs, and it's kind of ambiguous how to what's going where.
I see. Okay. So I would be looking for companies that actually, so USA Jobs, yes, that's when you know the job opening. But my guess is many of those jobs are also posted on other job boards, not just USA Jobs. So what I'm saying is you can cross link once you find the job for a company that you're looking for, whether it's LinkedIn or some other job board. I mean, there's like at least 10 other job boards that are very that are used by hiring managers. You will find that some of those maybe not just on USA Jobs, but at least you find out about them on publicly available job boards. And if you think it's a company that is the type of company that has to by law post them on USA Jobs, then you can go into USA Jobs and look for that type of for the job title and the company name on USA Jobs. And now the difference is that if you find this position advertised on LinkedIn, and I see this all the time, I see for golf cons that are having a hard time finding qualified candidates on through USA Jobs. They're actually posting on other jobs, right, on other job boards, including LinkedIn. The difference is if it's already on LinkedIn, more than likely you can also find the hiring manager if they're using the hashtag hiring. And I've seen golf cons do that when they're, when they just won a brand new contract and they're looking to bring in more than, they got from their legacy previous contractor, that now they're transferring all those people. Now they're looking to bring in even more people. They don't just use USA Jobs. They use other job boards as well. And you just have to find them on those job boards, look for the hiring manager on LinkedIn, and then search. If you want to apply, yes, you have to apply through USA Jobs. You're correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions from either online people or in person?
Yes.
I mean, you can speak
You
from
can
there.
speak.
I think
You can speak.
You
from
can
here.
hear,
Yeah.
can you hear me? Yes, I have a good
Yes.
voice. Okay. So I've been looking at a executive level job, and LinkedIn is great, but what other job boards should I be looking at? It should be ladders. And also I find a lot of times it's going through headhunter agencies instead of going through something like LinkedIn. So any suggestions for a level of vice president positions that I've been looking for?
Yes. And, actually, this is something that you can actually have, and this is something that we're looking at is actually creating executive job search boards for those of us that are looking for CXO or VP of some company, having other executives like you who are in the job seeking process and actually forming a support group of executives for executives by executives that are currently looking for CXO type of jobs, executive type of jobs. So that's the first thing I would recommend to you is to find executive level support groups that can help you with that. Now, having said that, LinkedIn, I'm actually have a job search for just executive positions. And here's the way I do it. I have a search engine that I can say by different kinds of filters, by location of where the company is located, by the number of employees of the company. And often, if you actually have you can actually start finding these companies and then start specifically doing it by industrial sector. So if your expertise is in a specific industrial sector, you can also define maybe 2 or 3 of those and see what the job search filter, how many jobs there are posted on LinkedIn. Now, having said that, you're going to find there are a few. So what I've seen recently is I have, for example, one filter where I'm just looking for a specific type of position, which is chief product officer, which is a new kind of C-suite role that is someone that has product management, and now they're at the executive level, they're doing everything that is about managing a company's product portfolio. And I find that in the last 18 months that I had this search, I see weekly notifications about new job openings in the areas where I'm looking. So you can actually do this on LinkedIn, and to cross to other job boards. Often, Indeed is also another one that is great. That's also setting up a job search agent that has keywords like chief or VP, and sometimes you can do Boolean searches where you can say either CXO or VP of blah, and that's your job search filter by title. And you'll see that you can get notifications ongoing once you set up the job search agent with other things that of the type of companies and the locations where you're looking for. So I would start with that, but I would say the biggest thing to do is to also find advocates within the companies that where you might be interested in coming in. So for example, as an executive, if you are looking to come in, I would be looking for companies that maybe just right now they still need funding to continue, because most of their operations, there's still a lot of losses, even though they may have sales. That, a lot of losses due to technical debt and other things that have gone on in the past just to get to the company where they're at. And now they got like a new round of funding, right? So they go from Series A to Series B, and the Series B may be 15 million or more for the next 3 to 5 years. Those companies, as soon as they get the funding, they will actually be looking for C-level positions, executive level positions. And now you can start also looking for those on databases like Crunchbase. If you're familiar with Crunchbase, Crunchbase is a directory of companies that, from startup to small businesses to mid-market companies that are looking for funding because they're looking for private equity investors or funding, and they're already have obtained maybe a few rounds of funding, but they are looking for their next round, and they're churning out. And once they get to the next level of funding, often they will start hiring executive level positions first, and then everybody else, just to achieve what they need to achieve with the level of funding they just obtained. So Crunchbase is another tool that is free, available to you for free. You can sign up and start using it and start looking for these companies that have just gotten their next round of funding. And now, more than likely, they're going to be looking for a new executive to come in and help them achieve what they need to achieve with the funding they just obtained.
Okay, yeah. Another question.
Hector, can you hear me?
Yes.
Suppose you are both of us in this room have a lot of experience in project management. But suppose you're new to the game, you just got your bachelor's in project management. How do you show yourself that you worthy of a job in your office.
Got it. So, and are you? So, is that in that question? There's different context, right? You may have already like just gotten your PMP, for example, but have some experience. Obviously, if you've gotten your PMP or even your practicing practitioners, you may have some experience already, having done project some level of project management in the past. So with that, the certification is key, right? So number one, the first thing you can do is, as soon as you get a new certification from a reputable source, you post it on your LinkedIn profile and you announce it to the world, right? That's part of announcing and kind of like hooting your own horn, to just say, hey, I just got this. Oh, and by the way, I'm open to work. So turning on the open to work hashtag along with saying, just got my CAPM or just got my PMP and I'm looking for my next product role, open to work, and then sharing it with your LinkedIn network and then getting some advocates. That's the first thing you should be doing, even if you don't have much experience. Second thing that you can do is you can find the type of companies that you want to work for, just based on what you doing some research on the type of companies that are employing someone like with your experience. Just start putting together a list of companies and then connect with employees of those companies on LinkedIn. So what I mean by that is, let's say you're looking for project analyst role. It's not necessarily a senior or a project manager, but project analysts work alongside project managers, right? So it's kind of like an entry level position that later on you can actually start going into manager, senior project manager. That's kind of part of the cycle of coming into a company like that. So if you find project analysts in that particular company that is on your list, connect with them first on LinkedIn. And part of, if they do connect or once they connect, just ask them if they would want to do like a 20-minute introduction with you. And once they agree to do a 20-minute introduction, follow up and schedule something, either a phone call or a video conference. And from there, just carry out an informational interview. Now, if for those of you who don't know what an informational interview is, it's basically deeper market research that you're talking to somebody who's got the title that you would like to have and that, working for that company at some point. But you want to find out from them, what's real. Is your idea of what the company is like really the reality? Or just ask them, how do you like working for this company? How long have you been there? How did you actually get into this role? And did you come out straight out of college, or did you have to, what position were you in if you came in from inside the company, or where else did you work at before you were able to apply for that particular role that you're looking for? And you're going to find out that people are very, willing to share that information, because you're not asking them for a job. You're just wanting to know them a little bit more and about how do they got to where they're at today within the company that you're interested in applying for. And informational interviews is your number one source of getting deeper market research about specific companies and the job openings, to figure out what the company has done in the past to fill those type of positions, and now gives you ideas as to how you can present yourself the next time that there's a job opening. If you're still interested in that company, based on what you hear, that you're able to actually now apply for those companies. And often, if you actually strike up a great conversation with those people, they can become your advocates. What I mean by advocates, these are people who will actually say, hey, we just got this, I just saw this new job opening in my company, and I think you might be a great match. I know we just met, but you might be interested in this particular job role. Once you get to know them, you can say, hey, would you mind if you tell me what the next, if you see anything? And often, especially large companies, have an employee referral program, which means that If a current employee refers somebody from outside and gets the job, they get paid, and that's usually what the perks and the benefits that they give to their employees, so they can, whoever they know that is not in the company but would be valuable to bring in, they actually would get rewarded by introducing them to the right person. And often these are your advocates that can also tell you who the hiring manager, because they're already working in the company, they can find out very quickly not only who the HR specialist is, but also who the hiring manager is within their company. And not only can they refer you to the job, they can take your resume, either email it directly to the hiring manager or give you a straight introduction via email to the hiring manager and hand them your resume once they have it. Their carrot is that if you get hired, they're going to get paid because of this employee referral program the company has in place. How many? Just show of hands, and maybe also people in the online. How many of you have taken advantage of an employee referral program before? Either you've been inside the company referring your friends and connections to your company for hiring, and you've gotten paid. Just raise of hands or tell me in the chat, yes, me too. Okay, I see a few. So look around. This is reality. These people can become your advocates, and all you need to do is be smart about conducting market research by setting up a lot of information interviews, especially within companies where you know a little bit but not too much, and now you're trying to figure out, how do I get my foot in the door, right? You just start talking to people, connect with them socially, and then set up an introduction and just carry out an informational interview. And if you don't know how to do that, also a job search support group. These are some of the things that are discussed in order for you to learn how to do things that things that I talked about on the 5-phase framework that I spoke about earlier. That you can start doing many of these things that you haven't done before, but chances are a more experienced job seeker will know, and then you start sharing those practices with each other and helping each other, encouraging each other in your job search process. So that's what I would say. Your number one thing is look for companies that have employee referral programs, and then connect with people that are in the job role that they have, and just conduct informal informational interviews with them, and just get to know about the company environment and how they actually came into that role. Just ask them and start taking notes, and then figure out from there how you can position yourself to actually get selected and get the interview and get the job offer once they have a suitable job opening within the company.
Okay.
Any other questions or?
Yes.
Yes.
So how do you transition from one career field to another? Like you've been a project manager for about 6 years, and you're interested in being an agile coach, and you see an agile coach position you know you can do, and you've had the certifications and the training, but you've been a project manager, you don't have experience in agile coaching. How do you transition? For one thing, your resume is not so much that you have experience in that, but you know you can.
So I think there's several different ways you can actually go about that. Number one, you can go and work with my recommendation, if you haven't done consulting before, it is not it's not part of the gig economy. Let me put it this way, because if you look at most gig economy jobs today, while they sound great, you're working very hard to make just a little bit more, and often you're working a lot of time. And consulting is no different, right? If you're consulting and you're a one person shop doing consulting, you're always going to have to spend a lot of time and funding doing the marketing in order for you to get enough leads to get hired as a job consultant, because by definition, consulting work is only temporary work, right? You're coming in, and whether it's a few months or a year, you're coming in as a contractor first of all, and you're only going to be it's a time based. And so yes, it's great if you can find a 1 year role, but then what happens if that role doesn't get renewed and you need to now start all over again, right? So my recommendation, if you really want to get into consulting and you don't have much experience, I would be looking for consulting firms that are hiring people that can actually do the actual training and the actual doing of being a contractor, or a contractor that comes in and does just the agile piece within a team that may be a temporary role. And that way you don't have to do the marketing. You just look for your next opportunity when you know your contract is not going to be renewed, and that you're going to be let go, and now you're going to be looking again. Well, within the company, there are job postings that are internal, only available to the people who are contractors, and then you can look for your next job before your current contract expires. Believe me, the marketing is expensive when you're doing like a freelancer type of work. Marketing and consulting, um, post COVID-19, and because of the gig economy, it's gotten more expensive just to do the marketing. It's a lot more effort than it was 5 7 years ago, and it's going to continue doing that because most people think it's easy to go into consulting being on your own. It sounds sexy. It's a lot of work, and like a lot of work in doing the marketing that you're not getting paid for by anyone. And if you are fully immersed on a current job, the problem is you don't have enough time to do the marketing, because marketing should be continuous. It should be going ongoing, even as you're working full time for your current client. And it's something that requires either resources and or funding at any one time in order for you to have your next job lined up before your current contract expires. But actually there's a way of doing that. If you have like deep expertise, and that is deep expertise meaning you have already 15 years or more of doing that, it gets easier because you find there's less people that can compete with your years of expertise. One of the reasons why I'm able to do the kind of work that I do in product management, working as a product management consulting, is because when I started, I had more than 10 years of experience. Now I have over 20 years of experience doing product management, and I can do it at different levels. I now work with product executives to help them build high performing product teams. So I'm not working with one team. When I'm working with one company, I'm working with all their teams that are doing product. And that's the difference, is that the years of expertise and experience count, because obviously there's less competition. But if you have very little experience and you're trying to get into consulting, you will need to do significant marketing to get your first few clients, and that's just the way it works. So I would definitely be looking for a consulting firm that would hire somebody like you to kind of put you on the bench until they get the right client that needs someone with your expertise to come in and work with one or two teams at a time for a very specific contract that is time based, right? And there's companies like that. I would say look for companies that offer agile project management as a service, and maybe provide people that are either on a fractional basis or on a full-time basis that is time based.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Hey,
Yes.
hey Hector. We have few questions in online. Uh,
Okay.
Titra want to ask, when reviewing companies and our job descriptions for open roles, are there any keywords or phrases that indicate that we should avoid a given job opportunity?
Okay. So it just depends. I think that that what you need to do is make sure that you're clear about the kind of things that you're looking for, and often you have to kind of figure out the filters and what's available. LinkedIn offers, pretty good filters for free, but even better filters, sharper filters when you are on a paid plan. And if you're in that boat where you need to go beyond what the free version of LinkedIn offers, I would consider the job seeker plan, because there is a job seeker plan in LinkedIn. And actually, it's not Sales Navigator, but it's specifically when you need to have finer filtering based on let's say you're looking for like a very niche position, and because that's your expertise and that's where you find your strength is, then I would consider turning on the job seeker plan on LinkedIn. And you can find that on LinkedIn what the pricing is, because they usually will vary. But I will be looking to at least get a free trial, and I would start with a free premium trial, because LinkedIn offers this all the time. Typically, for anyone that is a free LinkedIn user, you probably will see at least once a year, some notification saying, "Hey, you're eligible to turn on premium LinkedIn for 30 days for free." And if you're in the job seeker process, I would start with that first and see the available filters that are not available on the free version of LinkedIn. And they are available, but sometimes you need to you kind of need to discover them by turning on some sort of paid plan, and then try them out and see if they work for you. But that's typically what I do, because typically once a year I get an offer for 30 days. I turn it on, and then I just unsubscribe or turn it off before I get into my first payment. That's how I know about that as well. So I would try that, and I would say look for the filters, and if they're not enough on the free version of LinkedIn, you can actually look for turn on a paying version and see if the filters make any the additional filters make any difference. But typically, for most the filters that I find, even on Sales Navigator or some sort of premium plan on LinkedIn, you can find companies by the number of employees and the revenue range. So for me, for example, the way I use that information is, and this goes back to knowing myself, right? Things that I like and things I don't like. So I mentioned earlier, the things I don't like is I don't like commuting, because I think it's a waste of time. And I clearly communicate that to my employers when they're looking to hire me, right? But also, the other thing that I don't like is I don't like bureaucratic organizations. And bureaucratic organizations exist everywhere. It's not just working for some federal agency or for some government contractor that is large, because they tend to be bureaucratic. But even large private companies are also very bureaucratic. Sometimes, it makes a difference when you're working in a company that has tens of thousands of employees around the world. There tend to be more bureaucratic than organizations that are mid-size. And mid-size, I define companies that are between 20 people, 20 employees, all the way up to maybe about 1,000. And there's a range. And believe it or not, in US, companies that are between 20 people and 1,000, there's probably a few 100,000 companies in US that are headquartered in US and hiring in US. Mid-market sector is a great sector for me to work in, because they tend to be quick. They can tend to be very, very focused. And one person can make a huge impact across the entire organization, because the organization is fairly small compared to one that has tens of thousands of people around the world. And often these mid-market companies are thriving. If you look at what's happening right now, as there are a lot of large companies that had massive tech layoffs, many of the people that have found jobs in the last few months have gone from working from a large company working into a mid-market company. And a mid-market company is not just by the number of employees, but it's also by revenue. So I find that most companies that are already at 20 million minimum in revenue, in sales revenue, all the way up to about $500 million a year in revenue, are great companies to work for because they're hiring, they're thriving, and pretty much they were bouncing back, or COVID for them meant more work, not less work. And that now they're taking advantage of all those talented people who recently have been laid off by larger companies, and they actually have now brought them in to their companies. Many of the job seekers that were laid off have found very quickly jobs within the mid-market sector. And the mid-market sector is very broad in US, and there's lots of companies. You just have to figure out how to find them based on the type of industries that you're looking to work in. One example of a growing sector right now is AI. And it's not just Chat GPT, right? I've been hearing reports that for the last 3 years post COVID-19, investors double down on investment of AI startups. And not only were the large employers like Google, Meta, Amazon, and others, Microsoft and others, actually buying tech startups in AI to just buy and build, meaning make them larger business units within a much larger company. But many of those companies that they didn't get bought out, they actually became mid-market companies because many investors, even as startups, they were funding them for 3 to 5 years. And this happened in 2020. In 2023, what are we seeing? Not just ChatGPT, which is an open AI free source product. Over 200 AI products have been introduced in the last month alone in 2023. And it's all because there was a lot of investment of AI startups, and many of those startups back in 2020, in 3 years, have become mid-market companies that are growing today. And they're going to market now with brand new AI products across different types of sectors and applications. So I would be looking to be a project manager within an AI mid-market company if you're looking to come into a growing industrial sector that also is hiring right now. That's just my take on the market right now.
Yeah, one more question.
Mm-hmm.
This question is from Karin. So Hector, you recommend using LinkedIn Premium paid version. Do you
I recommend it if it's when it's free. When it's free. I want to qualify that. I don't recommend it if you're a job seeker and you don't have a job right now. I do not recommend it because you're overpaying for sure. I think that turning it on momentarily for free and turning it off, you probably will see benefits, and then figure out whether or not to take it down to the job seeker plan, which is more affordable. And you can actually take a look at the different plans, the paid plans, and you'll see the difference between a premium and a job seeker, not by price, but there's specific things that are for job seekers that you can, for example, a job seeker gets priority on LinkedIn when they're applying for a specific position and you can also set up early notifications. So as soon as the job opens, once you set up your filter, you get notified, and you can apply with a one button click. You can apply immediately as soon as that happens. And also you get credits to actually email the hiring manager and or the HR specialist responsible for that specific job. That's some employers are actually taking advantage of that to fill jobs very quickly on LinkedIn alone. And as a job seeker plan, you get priority over everybody else who's using a free plan when you're applying for a position. So I think it just depends on how motivated you are in finding your next job.
So I got a couple of things. First thing is about the LinkedIn Premium. I was looking for a job recently, and I got the offer for, I don't remember if it's a couple of weeks or a month of LinkedIn Premium for free to test it out. One thing about LinkedIn Premium is that when you apply for a job, it shows you how many of your attributes match with the how good of a fit you are with the job you're applying for. It also shows you how many other people have applied for the job, and if you're in the top 5% of those who have applied. So it kind of tells you, well, you applied for this job, but you're in the top 5% of the applicants, or you're in the bottom 50% or whatever it is. So you kind of know whether or not you have a likely chance of getting that. So that's one thing about it. I turned it off before they asked me to pay, by the way. So no, I haven't paid for it.
That's smart. And by the way, that same statistics that you mentioned are available on the job seeker plan, that you can step it down because it's less expensive than the premium plan. So if you choose, you can actually sign up, instead of just turning it off, you can subscribe to the job seeker and you still get those stats, because that's part of the metrics that you see that are not available on the free plan.
Right. Yeah, and then the other thing I was gonna say, as I mentioned, I was job seeking, and one of the first things that I did, and you talked about it early in your presentation, one of the first things I did, I would get all these emails about, hey, there's this job, are you interested in it? And my response to that email, rather than indicating my interest, would be, first question, where's the job located? Second question, is it remote, on-site, or hybrid? If it's hybrid, what does hybrid mean to you? And basically, and let them know I live in Maryland and I don't plan to relocate anytime soon, because I was getting a lot of offers for jobs in Colorado, California, Texas, Florida. And if it's hybrid, one of the things that they're looking for, and you talked about hybrid jobs earlier, they want you to come on site for 3 days and work remote 2 days. I'm willing to do that if the job is in Washington, D.C., but if it's in Colorado, I'm not going to go into the office for 3 days and then fly back. And then also, if it's hybrid, you want me to be in the office sometimes and then I can work remote sometimes. Would you want to do 1 week on, 1 week off? Is that acceptable to you? So these are the things I negotiate right up front to let them know exactly, look, you know what? That's not going to work for me, because what you're asking for, I can't do. So.
Yep. And that's actually a great insight, because that should be part of your candidate to market fit, things that you like and things you don't like, right? And in clarity, because you need to be that specific, as you mentioned, it does matter to employers, and you need to make sure that you understand that up front. Even before why even interview if you don't understand what they mean by hybrid? So sometimes that's why you need to actually have access to at least the HR specialist responsible for filling those type of jobs, or maybe even conducting informational interviews to talk to current employees and say, hey, what are you in a hybrid job and what does that mean? And get clarity from the insiders who are already working in that company to see what that means. That's part of the market research that you can conduct before you even consider applying for a specific position. Now, often I would say, if you want to err on the safe side, like, I would just apply first and then see if you can connect with someone that can answer that question before you even get a call back for an interview, or have a set of questions that you would, typically the first interview would be somebody from HR or from the talent search actually asking if you're still interested, and then you should have those kind of questions ready so they can answer those questions before they even schedule the first interview. And I think these are all things that you want to make sure that you do to make sure that it's clear to not just to you, but to your employer, that sometimes when they mean hybrid, it may be different things to you than it means to them. And you need to have clarity on that up front. Often you don't find that kind of level of detail on a job description.
Right.
Any other questions or?
Um, so, Titra, Titra, you can unmute yourself, and I know you are offering some help. If anybody looking for a job, so Titra is offering some help. So you can unmute yourself, and you can speak now. Titra Gainey Hamilton.
Jamie?
Okay. So
Hi, this is teacher. You answered my question already.
I have HR
Great.
recruiting contacts at Oracle and ICF. Let me know if you need help with the open roles posted for these companies.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Contact
I just wanted to
firms,
contribute that people could find me on LinkedIn.
TS Smart,
A former
Smartcon, and Fortitude Systems. Happy to make an introduction and help. So
right.
this is
This is
Titra Gainey Hamilton.
right. This is
Yes.
Tetra. Um, in my previous role, I did a lot of hiring and firing and staffing. So as a result, I have contacts at Oracle, two staffing companies, and at ICF. So if people see any open role with Oracle or ICF, you can hit me up on LinkedIn and I can help out. Also, if you are looking for roles, I have contacts with recruiters at TS Marathon and Fortitude Systems. They do a lot of staffing in the federal contracting arena, but they do have contacts with customers in commercial that are looking to staff. So again, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to try and make connections and help people get hired.
Great. Thank you so much. And if you can share your LinkedIn URL on the chat, would be great.
Yes, sir. It's already in the chat.
Great. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments, suggestions, feedback?
Victor, there are some more questions in the chat. The job seeker plan doesn't exist anymore. Okay. There is a career business, sales, navigation, recruiting life. Okay. It's from Jason.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anywhere you recommend that helps with the setting up a quality LinkedIn profile?
What I would do is, number one is I would be looking for blogs, articles. There's plenty of experts that have blogs, and just be doing a search for, how to set up your how to really set up your LinkedIn profile to be found when you're in the job search process. And there are lots of experts that can do that, and you can find some articles that are great. I would probably put together a list of recommendations that I can, at least one or two recommendations of recommended articles that I can share, and I will post them after today's live session in the post event page, that where you'll have a link where you can view the video to today's discussion. My slides will be also available there for you to view. And I will also include a list of references, and I'll put in there a couple of great articles that I've found on how to actually improve your LinkedIn profile when you're in the job seeking process. But it actually starts with definitely announcing to your network, to your direct connections, that you're open to work, and using the hashtag open to work. If you're able to do that, I would start there, and then immediately telling them what type of job are you looking for next, and how they can contact you directly, either via LinkedIn or via email. And it would be great if you can also upload at least a generic version of your resume that people can download directly from your LinkedIn profile. You should be able to do that as well. You can just upload a PDF file and then share it with anyone that visits your LinkedIn profile.
So that is the online questions. Unless anyone on the floor have any other questions. Yeah, no more questions. So we can start the lucky draw raffle. Oh,
Yeah, so let me just make sure to give a reminder. Those of you
Daniel,
who have, yep, I was going to say that just a reminder to the people, especially those of you who are in person, make sure you sign up to Fontero in order to be eligible for the drawing. I think everybody should have done that already. Is that right? You not? Danielle, can you turn on your mic because we cannot hear you? I think you're presenting, but we can't hear you online.
So I was talking about the PDU code for this session. So can everyone get the code? Can everybody see the code?
Can you type it in the chat? It would probably be best if somebody can type it in the chat. Would be best.
Yeah, Vinod is doing that.
Okay, thank you. And again, this will be for 1.5 PDUs. Is that correct, Danielle?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, great.
Type it in the chat. Is it in the chat? Okay.
Yep, it is in the chat now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So meanwhile, anyone on the floor did not sign up on Tarot. Can you guys please so that we can start making. And I left the QR codes on the tables in case you want the link. Please let me know if you guys need any help to sign up. I can come and help you.
So if you're interested in being a speaker for one of our meetings, you can always visit our website or you reach out to programs at pmiscc.org. We also accept recommendations on speakers. So yeah. So if you're interested in being a speaker at any of our meetings, whether in person or virtually, you can always reach out to programs at pmiscc.org. Or if you have any recommendation and any good speakers, you can also reach out to that email as well. And on behalf of the chapter, we'd like to present this certificate of appreciation to Mr. Hector. And please, can we give him a round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, and looking forward to hearing from you guys. And stay tuned for the drawing as well.
Yeah. So the drawing has just begun. Okay. Oh.
Because Fontero hurt my phone. Yeah. So let's
Oh.
get up here.
Monica staying until.
Thank you, David.
Hey, Hector, this is David. Thank you for a fine presentation. We enjoyed it.
Hey, David, thanks so much.
All right. My LinkedIn profile has open to work on it.
Hey, well, let me know if you want to join or lead a project job search support group.
All right, we'll do. Thank you.
So I realized that I missed the first part of the meeting where you guys did the announcement. I have one more thing to add, but I'll wait until after the drawing.
Okay, Elsie.
Are we waiting on something?
The drawing, I believe.
Yes, we are actually waiting on the results.
Yeah, in just a few minutes, like few more folks are going to sign up, and then I'm going to launch the game.
And it's mostly the online, the in-person participants, because online are automatically entered, eligible to join.
So once I launch the game, it's going to come on the screen, even for online and people who connect over the phone, and they can see that here on the screen as well. I'll launch the lucky draw game, and then there is a join button. So once you guys click, you get a number, and that number is included in the pool. So it takes it'll give 2 minutes to join. So once you join, you get the number, and after 2 minutes, it takes 30 seconds to announce the winner.
Well, my phone's about to die because it's burning my phone down so bad. No, it's gonna come. Stay where you are. Stay on the screen. Stay on the screen. Don't go to. Yes, stay right there.